Hey, old dogs. I just want to take a moment to welcome a new sponsor to the show, Smart Move. Smart Move is the best way I know to protect yourself from evictions and bad tenants. Smart Move has a special offer just for old dog listeners. Just go to tenantscreening.com, enter code OLDDOG25 at checkout, and you'll get 25% off your next screening. That's tenantscreening.com, enter OLDDOG25, and get 25% off your next screening.
This episode of the Old Dogs REI Network is brought to you by Mino Studio.
In a world where jobs are how most people make money, one man, one desire, one challenge dares to break the mold. Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network, where we don't work for money. Money works for us. Coming soon. Viewer discretion advised.
Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network, where cash flow is king. Real estate investing, the means, so you can enjoy your retirement dreams. This is the show where we cut right to the chase. No sales pitch, no long monologues, just simple how-to real estate investing advice, so you can earn the passive income you need to enjoy your retirement today. And now, your host and chief old dog, Bill Manacero.
Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network. I'm your host, Bill Manacero, and this is a show where 50-plussers and anyone else who wants to join us get solid, no sales pitch real estate investing advice to help generate real cash flow. This podcast airs twice weekly on Mondays and Fridays, and if you aren't already a subscriber, go to iTunes, type in Old Dog, spelled D-A-W-G, find our podcast, and subscribe. Well, we've got an exciting show for you today. We're going to be talking about something that is so critical to successful real estate investing, and that has to do with putting together a good action plan and how do you actually implement the things that you want to accomplish in terms of your real estate investing. And our guest today is Nick Disney, no relation to Walt, but Nick is the owner of Sell My San Antonio House, a home buying company established in San Antonio, Texas in 2009. His work revolves around his passion for helping people who can be seen not only in his profession, but also in his work being a mentor to other investors. Through focus and execution, he has grown his real estate holdings from nothing to a portfolio valued at over $3 million, and he believes that others can do the same. Nick specializes in the topics of cash flow, real estate investing, self-development, entrepreneurship, and small business. Well, Nick, welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network.
Hey, fantastic. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's great to have you. You've got a neat story to tell. Really, I'd love for you just to kind of give us a little bit of background, sort of where you came from and how you got into this whole crazy real estate world that we're in. You mind sharing a little bit here with our people?
No, not at all. I think the beginning of my real estate investing journey isn't that different from a lot of people. You know, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that part, and started to realize that I wanted a way to set myself free, create sustainable long-term cash flow. And I thought for me, you know, real estate investment is probably the best vehicle to do that. And so I started off focusing on single-family rental real estate. After I got through the first couple, you know, I thought that would be the way that I would do it, and started to build that portfolio. As I went along, plans change, and you have to adjust to continue to accomplish your goals. And so while I still focus on creating more cash flow, it's done through a combination of rental property, owner finance notes, and then the other part of the business is really just generates cash flow through some wholesaling and some flipping. But that cash flow is used just to generate, I guess, acquire more owner finance notes and rental properties.
So, were you working full time when you first started, trying to acquire properties?
Absolutely, full time.
What were you doing?
In sales. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I was full time in sales, and which was a good job. I enjoyed my job, but I also felt like I wasn't reaching my full potential, and I wanted a little more freedom for myself and to be able to kind of chart my own path. And so that's how I started looking at real estate, and from one house, just start building from there.
So, your thought, it sounds like, is acquiring properties, getting rental income, and using that to either supplement or to replace your current income. Is that about right?
That's exactly right. It's if you keep it simple and you do kind of a basic math problem, if you know what your expenses are, if you can create monthly cash flow that'll cover that and hopefully a little bit more, then ideally you could kind of set yourself free. I think a great way to do that is through real estate, and especially things that are long term, that are going to give you monthly steady checks, such as rental property or investing in notes. And once you do that, then you can obviously look at your personal goals and how far you'd like to take it.
Got it. So you acquired a couple of rental properties. Were you just doing it through a realtor? How were you finding those first couple of properties?
The first couple were through a realtor. It was quite a while ago. There was a few more deals available on the MLS at the time, and I just I started asking everybody around, what real estate agents they knew or what investors they knew, and it was actually my barber who happened to cut a guy's hair who was a real estate agent and an investor, and he helped me out a lot, helped me kind of find my first rental property in San Antonio and get through the first process of fixing it up and getting it rented out. And, then he helped me find a couple more. And then after that, after the fourth one, I then branched into marketing for my own properties and kind of scaling that from there.
Yeah, and maybe you could explain that process. So obviously you've got four properties. You're generating some cash flow from those properties. Why would you change your plan sort of midstream there?
It was two reasons. I felt like I'd kind of got my feet wet, and I could do a few more, and I wasn't finding enough good deals fast enough through the system that I had. And so a lot of the more successful investors around San Antonio, they were all marketing. So I thought, okay, well, I can do this. And if I'm working through this real estate agent, and if I start marketing for my own properties to buy directly from sellers, then hopefully I can find more deals. And what ended up happening was, yes, I found more deals, but I was also able to find better deals, because lots of times I would be the only person making an offer on the property. There wouldn't be a fight for it on the MLS.
Got it. So you started, it says here, in 2009. So that was like right after the crash, or probably still in the midst of, I'm sure, a lot of the foreclosures and other things going on at that time. I would imagine probably is a great time to buy.
It worked out well. Not that I had that much foresight at the time, but there was lots of them available, and obviously the market's come up since then, and some of them that I've held on to for a few years. That's really worked out well for me. That's and part of that, there was less investors, so there were more deals available at the time. Had I had more knowledge then, I probably could be even a little bit more successful. But it was a good time to get in, and there was deals there, and I just like a lot of people, just wish I had started sooner.
Now, were you paying cash for the properties, or were you financing?
So it was a combination. I had a little bit of my own cash, and then I was able to borrow some from people that I knew in order to purchase the properties. And what I was doing was I would purchase the property, and then I would do delayed financing. So I would purchase it cash, but then I finance it into a long-term note in order to pull back out all the cash.
Yeah, I imagine boy, at that time too, a lot of the banks were pretty tight on lending. I would imagine.
The banks were pretty tight on lending. Since I had income and I had a steady job, I was able to, and I didn't have any really much other debt, so I was able to still get long-term financing for the first few rental properties, but they were much happier that I had bought them and fixed them up and had it set up perfect for them. Here's a good looking property. It's already got a tenant in there. It's producing income. They were much more willing to then finance back out so that I could pull my cash out.
Got it. So you were looking at, well, I can get better deals, less competition by, taking sort of a wholesaling approach, right? Going direct to seller. And what were you looking for what kind of sellers were you looking for in that process?
So I first targeted absentee owners, and I was just looking for really any kind of motivated seller. So I started with mailing to absentee owners, and shortly after, then I started the website, which was just kind of directed at anyone who was motivated, who needed to sell a house either fast or needed to sell a house that needed a lot of repairs and things like that. I originally started just to buy more rental property faster. And then I quickly learned when you start marketing, even though you have a target, you're going to get a lot of calls from things that are outside of maybe what you targeted in the types of properties. So they may be lower priced houses. They may be more expensive houses. I've gotten calls for all kinds of things now. And then I started to learn, well, how can I make these into deals, even though they're not necessarily what I want as a rental property?
Got it. And then what was your process at that point? As I could understand. So you're looking for, okay, somebody's got a house, they want to get rid of it. You can give them, an offer on it that would work well for you price wise, and they'd get their money, they'd be happy, they'd go away, and you'd take that house, rehab it, or just rent it out or whatever, right? The normal process. But you're encountering, it sounds like as you're encountering people and their situations and trying to work with them, you were seeing that approach wasn't going to necessarily work, or didn't seem to work well. And what were the factors there that showed you that this is something I couldn't just turn over into a rental property?
Well, there were properties that kind of didn't fit what at the time my rental property niche was. I knew what I bought so far, and those were working well. So I was like, let's not mess this up. Let's just stick with the same 3-4 bedroom, 2-bath type property. And when you start marketing, you get calls for all different kinds of 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, some on better parts of town, some that are in less desirable parts of town. And so I realized that those weren't going to fit my model. But I also knew that there's probably somebody whose model they do fit, because investors almost pretty much invest everywhere. So what I didn't want to do was put the time and the energy to create the lead and find the deal, but then not be able to monetize it or have any benefit from it.
Gotcha. And it sounds like, too, that the situation, or at least moving in the direction you moved into with seller financing, you're still able to help that person out, even though it may not be the original goal, sort of like a cash out deal. Could you talk about that, how you kind of moved into that seller financing side?
Sure. So I started with the rental properties, and I had this vision that I buy 100 rental properties and be set. And that was kind of the idea I had. But as I got going and as you get, a few more rentals there, a lot of time, it's not all what every book says, where you just buy a rental property and then put your feet up and people pay you. So what I needed was a way to, I guess, one, get back some of my time, but I still wanted to create the cash flow. And maybe best monetize all these leads that I was finding for different parts of town. And one place that wasn't exactly my ideal rental property, but some of the other properties that I would come across would work really well as an owner finance transaction. So there I would purchase the property, rehab it similar to the rental, but then would sell it with owner financing to someone who wants to purchase a home, has saved for a down payment, but they may, in the eyes of the bank, not qualify there. And so I will sell them the property, they make their down payment, and then they'll make a monthly payment in a mortgage just like you would to the bank.
Okay, and I could see how that could be a lot more of a passive income type situation where you own the property, or actually they own the property. They're buying it from you, but because they're the owner, anything goes wrong with it, they have to fix it. So you're not getting those calls in the middle of the night to unplug, the toilet or whatever. So your main responsibility really is just making sure that monthly payment arrives each month, right?
And absolutely. And I actually use a third party note servicer. So those individuals actually pay this third party company, and then that third party company pays me. So they actually track and do follow up calls if people don't make a payment. But to your point, when they're set up correctly and you've got a good buyer in there, they want to make their payment, and most people do. And so they're making a monthly payment. And like you said, they own the property. They get to be homeowners. So if something happens a few years later, you don't have the maintenance, you don't have the repairs that go along with a rental property, but you're still able to create cash flow or some monthly income from investing that way.
Got it. And well, that sounds like a great plan. I mean, if you can get enough of those folks there, I mean, you're basically just like you are the bank. I mean, the bank technically owns those properties, just like you technically own those properties, right? As long as there's a mortgage on them. But at the same time, you're just you collect it, and if they don't pay, I guess at a certain point, then you can always foreclose on it or what have you. You'll still have the property to get if it doesn't go through. Were you finding that in most cases, though, people would continue financing it, or did they at some point drop out?
Most people, in my business model, or the way I think about it, is to try to set up everybody for success. I think it's the right way to do it, but I think it's also the best business decision. So just like you would screen a potential tenant the best that you can, so that when they come into your property, they're going to take care of your property, but they're going to be successful once they move in. Do the same thing through a third-party mortgage loan originator. We're obviously checking for any red flags on their application, as far as have they had previous foreclosures, a lot of evictions, and things of such nature. So we really want to set someone up and sell the home to someone who's going to be successful, and that creates a win-win. They're happy because they get an opportunity to own a home where they might not have if they had to wait until they could get bank financing, and then they're successful and they'll make their monthly payment, which means that once it's set up the right way, there's not a whole lot of actions needed on my part, other than, just to monitor and, like you said, make sure everybody's paying and everybody's keeping up to date.
Got it. So are you still acquiring rental properties, or are you all in primarily on just the seller financing?
I am. I think there's a balance in both, because and the reason that I believe that is because the seller financing is great for the cash flow, but if someone pays for 30 years, they have bought the home, they own it, and so at that time you no longer own the asset. Right. You'll have less work and maintenance during that time, and have that great monthly cash flow. But with a rental property, they're going to make their rental payments. They're going to have, you'll still have some cash flow. It tends to not be quite as much as it is with the notes, but in the same scenario, they pay for 30 years. The property's been paid off, but you still own that asset. So the rental property is a great wealth building, if you want to pass something along in the future, whatever your goals are, but you still own those assets. So I find that for me and my goals, a combination of both is the best way to go.
Yeah, well, you've got that great equity building up, I'm sure, since you started pretty early on after the recession there. I'm sure you built up a lot of equity in your properties, I would assume.
Yes, that was a big help because I still bought them at a discount and rehabbed the properties. So I had an initial equity piece, and then of course the years since then, those properties have gone up in value as the market went up, which increased my equity, along with the fact that they were being paid down. The mortgages, as the tenant paid their rent, I paid down the mortgage. So that's just been a great and a huge help, and especially as if you want to grow your business later, you can use that equity to then finance additional properties and things. It's great to have that equity piece in the rentals.
Oh, sure. And on your seller financing, I assume that you would be, a little higher interest rate because these people don't qualify for conventional financing. Is that correct?
It is correct. There's people who do things different ways, and obviously, for me in my business, there are rules, and we follow all the rules. But typically, if somebody's buying as a homeowner is buying a property owner finance, the interest rate's about 10.9%. We try to keep um, the entire monthly payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, really close or right around what a typical rental would be in that area. So that way, if they've worked hard, they saved up for a down payment, instead of renting, say, this 3 bedroom, one house for $1,100, they can make their down payment and they don't have an $1,100 payment, but they own the property and are actually getting equity in the property. So we try to keep it right along, and we find that helps people be successful.
And you also require a smaller down payment as well. Is that true, or in every case, or just for exceptions?
Uh, Not, I mean, typically we're still looking for 10% down. Um, but that is, I guess it depends on what the definition of a smaller down payment would be, but we're usually still looking for about 10% down. That way, someone who maybe doesn't have as high of an income, but if they've worked really, really hard and say they buy $100,000 house, it's really hard for them, and they really have to be committed to save up that down payment. So when they put up their $10,000, generally they're really committed to this house, and they have really worked hard to save it, and they're really going to do everything they can to keep up with it and make their payment. So that's why I don't like to do things where they have really small down payments. It tends to not have people be as successful.
Yeah, and as motivated, I would imagine.
As motivated,
because
exactly.
they're not getting that back. Yeah, so
They are not getting them back.
Right. Well, this is fascinating, and it's interesting how you kind of moved in. You've kind of merged your original model with this differing model here, where you've got a variation, seller financing, and so what did you do in terms of positioning yourself now? Okay, this is what I want. Okay, and this is what we all encounter, I think, in terms of real estate investing is, first off, how did you determine what your goal was? And then from that, how did you break down the way you were going to achieve that goal?
Sure. I think everyone faces this. I completely agree with you. I think, especially a lot of people starting off, kind of run into this. So I think for me, I'm going to look at what's my goal. And if I don't know exactly what my goal is, I think the best step is to really ask yourself, well, why am I doing this? Why did I decide that real estate investing is what I needed to do? Everybody's can be different. But I mean, for me, it was financial freedom. And I also felt like I wanted to grow it so that my why was to give my family the life that I feel they deserve. So that's something that I'm obviously very passionate about. And so now that I have that why, I can think, well, what does my goal need to be in order to feel like I've accomplished that, right? And everybody's goal is going to be different. Your goal may be 3 houses. Your goal may be 300 houses. But if you really know why you're doing it, it'll help you find your goal, and it'll also help you get past those hiccups that are going to happen. They happen to everybody. And now they have your goal set in there. then I think the best thing you can do is really try to keep it simple and really try to break down what are the biggest needs, just one or two things that I really need to accomplish this goal. And what I mean is the two things that are really standing in the way more than anything else of getting me to that goal, and start from there.
That's great. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think you need to define your why first. And I think that once you have that in place, then you can move into sort of the dollar goals, which is at some point it does have to come down to that in terms of, okay, this is whether it's monthly income or annual income, or maybe it's your net worth, or maybe it's, assets. I mean, whatever that dollar amount is, then you have to kind of break it down into what are those little pieces that come together to support that goal. I mean, because you've got both a marketing entity, you've got this website that you're attracting people in that are new potential, but you're also doing more proactive things instead of just waiting for people to come to your website. You're doing direct mail, right, and calling and doing other things. So, and I guess you have to look at how much time do I spend at each area, in order to generate this goal.
It's exactly what I do. And I think I go back to, like you said, if we've got the goal, there's always, and I think people can often get stuck with, okay, I've got my goal, and maybe I read a book or I talked to somebody or I was online, and there's 50 things that I could go do. But I think most of the time you're going to find that there's one, two, maybe three things that are most important. These are the things you really need to focus on in front of everything else. For my business, it almost always comes down to money or capital in order to purchase the properties, right? And then more deals, increasing deal flow. Because if I can increase deal flow and then I have the capital available to purchase the deals when they come about, then those two are the main things that I focus on. And so I try to spend the vast majority of my time creating those two things, working on those two parts of the business.
And it seems like that's kind of interesting because you are doing different things. Like a wholesaler, typically it's a cash play and a lump sum, right? So you find a house and somebody's willing to sell it at this price. You add on your part of it. You find the buyer, and boom, you got $5, $10, $20,000, whatever it is, and so you got this big lump of cash. Now the typical buy and hold guy is looking at cash flow, and he's looking at, this is how much income I'm going to get each month. And that's, unless you're going to sell a property, but generally you're holding. So the idea is you're working on, growing cash flow. So you have kind of a combination of both. And you also have that, those payments coming in for the deed that you hold, which is again more on the cash flow side. So you're doing sort of a combination of both. You do you have sort of a lump sum goal? I need to get this much in cash, because cash flow is slower, and if you're getting even $1,000 a month in cash flow, you want to buy a property, you're gonna have to wait a few months before you can do that. But if you sell a house here and there, boom, you've got this big chunk of cash. You can put it into a property or whatever. Yeah, because you have these different elements. How do you manage that in your planning?
So you're right. There are different elements, and for my planning, I still really believe in trying to keep it as simple as I can. And so on that one side where I know we need more deals, and how can we find more deals? It's not as much anymore of what deal can we find. It's how do we find a motivated seller, and then once we find that property, we come to an agreement that's going to be a win-win, for me and for the seller. Then I'm going to look at, well, what's the best thing to do with this property, this asset? If that is this a great rental property, then probably try to go to that direction. If this property would probably make a really good note and be a real good win-win for an owner occupant who would like to purchase a property like this, then great. Some of those are going to be a property that may just really just doesn't fit into either one of those. So then it's going to fall into the category of, all right, should we just wholesale just to try to assign this property, or do we need to fix this property up and sell it as a flip property? By having that combination, a couple of things happen, right? By having the wholesale and the flip part, you still do get chunks of cash that come in, which is fantastic, just for one, helping the business, and two, also helping acquire more of the long-term assets like the rentals and creating more notes. So that's really what the deal focused on. How do we find motivated sellers for properties we can create a win-win, and then we'll figure out what to do with it. As far as the money part, which is the other big focus of my business, it's not all my cash, right? So now it's like, okay, well, what other options are there for funding things? And you quickly find that you're going to run out of cash really quick, almost everybody, unless there's private money, which is one of the greatest things and a huge help to my business. Certain banks, how can you work with them? How can you create something that works for that bank where they'll lend you money to purchase more assets, both short-term and long-term? And, and then, or maybe there's mortgage companies where you can create, they like to do rental properties, so they'll let you do additional rental properties on different long-term notes.
Right. So you've got, that's true. You've got a lot of different options there, because you mentioned the rental income, you've got the note income, the seller financing, you've got the wholesale, and then you've got the flip. So depending on what you do, I would say with the wholesale, generally it doesn't seem like you need to necessarily have the cash, because you're finding a buyer, right? So the buyer has the cash and you're just the middle guy, and so you don't necessarily, I mean, granted, to get the business you've got to market and you've got to spend money there, but generally you don't have to come up with your own cash, right, in a wholesaling transaction?
Generally not. If you can assign the contract, then you'll put an assignment fee on there. You'll assign your rights to the contract to the end buyer, and they'll bring their cash. I also buy at the county foreclosure auction, and so some of those properties will fit into different parts, and there you pay cash. So sometimes you'll just pay cash, and then you may sell it to somebody else, or take it down another path, part of the business.
That's true. Yeah. And if you're going to rehab, you're going to do the flip part, then you're going to come up with the rehab money too. So I can see how you can need sort of that other cash influx, whether it's hard money, private lenders, or whether or not you're actually going to go through bank funding. And I imagine that would only happen, I would think, as far as traditional type of mortgage funding would be for a rental property, right?
For the most part, yes. The other thing is, as your portfolio grows, and like we talked about earlier, as you have more equity in the properties, especially if you get some of those properties paid off so they're free and clear, you can take those properties and leverage them with the bank for a line of credit. So basically, they're gonna have a deed of trust and a note, on this property, but that line of credit gives you available cash that you can take out and purchase things, flip properties, close on properties that you need to buy, rehabs, whatever you need to do. So as the business grows, then part of that relationship with the bank allows you for capital, not only long-term, but then those lines of credit are shorter term, but much more flexible, which can also be a real big help to your business.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, because because you're doing so many different things, I would think it'd be a little more difficult to plan. For example, if I'm a typical buy and hold guy, I know that in my marketing efforts, if I spend this amount on direct mail, and I go by sort of traditional sort of responses, I get a 2-5%, whatever it is, a response that out of those I'm going to close on this, and with that I will buy the property that I'm looking for. That should generate the whatever it is, 300 a door, 200 a door, whatever it is, if for rental. And that's my formula there, right? As I go after and I market, but you really don't know what you're going to get, because you're looking for distressed buyers. In some cases, you'll do the wholesale deal. Some you'll do the flipping. Sometimes you I mean, you could do any of those, right? So it's a little bit different to judge your return, I would imagine.
I would say you're correct. Most of the time, my still main goal is to increase the cash flow. So that's the first thing that I would like to do. Most of the properties we come across can be used to create a rental or create an owner finance note. So I do know just the numbers over time that the majority of them will fit into one of those two pretty well. You're right. You can't predict who's going to call. You can't predict which house you're going to buy or which type of property. But I've never gotten too mad when, those lump sums of cash coming in are really helpful. And so it doesn't upset me too much because I know that there'll be another one as long as I stay active and as long as I stay focused and working hard that'll work for a rental or an owner finance note. And then I'll still be able to stay focused on my cash flow.
Okay. Yeah. That makes more sense to me because I see the cash flow is the focus. If you don't take that property on for cash flow, you kind of get like an extra bonus there, right? Like you said,
Exactly.
Okay, boom, I get a chunk of cash out of it at the very least. So, but your focus is growing that cash flow to a certain level, and that's really your goal, I would say. It's at least the monetary goal on that side.
Absolutely. That's the goal. If it can be used to create a long-term asset, that's the direction I'm going to try to go every time. Just not all of them are going to be the best for that. And like I said, it's real helpful to have that bonus chunk of cash, as you put it, come in every once in a while to help either pay something down or just, help fuel the business.
Yeah, sure. Wow. That's great. This is a neat. We don't talk to a lot of folks that are sort of in that position that you are, and it's neat to see. I mean, you could basically start off with almost nothing, as a wholesaler, for example, build up your cash and start moving into those other areas, and the more you get into your funnel, so to speak, your sales funnel, then the more you can start expanding out and doing other things. But it's a really interesting model that seems like it's working for you for sure.
So far, it's working, and I do believe that I don't think I'm any more special than anybody else. I think everybody can do it if they start and stay focused. Especially when you're starting, take it one property at a time. Really focus on that first or that if that's the second. Just really focus on that next good investment. And if you choose to grow it, it'll grow over time. Just really stay focused on your plan and then you get some more options, like you said, as it starts to scale.
That's great. Well, in the process of doing this, from going from full-time sales guy to a real estate investor here, what would you say sort of your biggest mistake that has happened thus far that you've learned from and has may have been painful, but definitely has helped you to shape your business and to be even more productive?
I would say, especially if I could go back and do it again, I would have started raising more capital and started getting access to capital a lot sooner. Because those first few properties, the first 10 or so long-term properties, I was able to fund them by the path that I was on. And what I found as I went to scale more and I got more assets, I ran out of money, and I hadn't built the network of private lenders. I hadn't built my relationships in local banks, which have been very, very helpful to me. And so I kind of got stuck, and for a while I was there where it was just kind of at a standstill because I hadn't done that. Now, it was a key learning. I do, like I said, spend a lot of time with those relationships now to help the business. But if you have a vision of scaling to, multiple properties or lots of properties, definitely your relationships and where your money and raising more capital is going to come from, I would definitely start sooner rather than later. You'll need it.
Good point. Good point. What would you say your worst deal was as you kind of look back here?
Um, uh, yeah, I can picture it. A house I bought on the southwest side of San Antonio. Um, Someone else had found the deal and asked me to pick it up, and you know, I had got a little probably too confident in judging the property, and the seller had shown him the inside, but we didn't have any pictures. I saw it from the outside, um, and I thought, okay, no problem, we'll do it, and bought the property without going in. And thought, hey, I'm just going to be fine. And went inside, and it was a lot worse than I thought. And it was difficult to then resell that property. And so it took about 6 months. Still made money, but I think I made a few $100s on the deal, and definitely not worth it for all the time and the energy that it took. And I think it really made me kind of sit back and go, you really just follow your own, follow the rules, follow your own rules, and make sure you do all your due diligence that you can, and really stay humble, and you won't have as many of these headaches moving forward.
That's good. What would you say your biggest success was?
I think my biggest success has just been being able to grow the cash flow past, my first goal. I wanted to be able to bring in a few $1,000s a month, and then, my second goal was let's raise that up. And I think by being able to create long-term cash flow like that, which was my initial goal and still is now, I really feel like I've created a lot more security for me and my family financially. I don't think we're at the end of the road, but I feel that that's probably my biggest success, just to feel like we're going to be okay, from the hard work, but by the system that's been created. If something was to happen, we'd still be all right.
That's great. That's great. Our audience are primarily folks that are 50 years of age and older. They're either approaching retirement or they're already in retirement, and they're looking at real estate investing as a means to either supplement the income that they have already from existing pensions, Social Security, and so forth, or they're looking to look at their existing nest egg and utilizing that to sort of grow that or help that to be a means to generate income for them. What advice would you have for those folks in that area? In terms of, from your experience, real estate. I don't know if a lot of folks would want to get in there and do flipping and do some of the stuff that you've done,
Right.
hands on. But what do you think from what you do? What do you think is sort of a smart approach?
I think I would say step back and ask yourself, what's my whole vision of what I want my real estate investing to look like, and how's that going to affect the rest of my life? Because I'm very active, so that does take a lot of my time. You can set up your business, whether it's rental properties. So you want to make some seller finance notes, some of those are going to be less active and can still provide a good return or a good supplemental income. And also, I would expand your search into things if you want to be really, really passive. So things like a private lender to a good investor, they make great returns on their money, and they are very, very passive. And what I mean by that is, so a lot of the private lenders that I work with, they fund the deals. Many of them are past real estate investors or do a lot less real estate now as they've gotten older, and they make the returns that they're happy with, and they're extremely hands off. So it creates a win-win. I'm able to do more projects. They're able to supplement their income in a very, very passive way, but they're still protecting that money that they've worked hard for, because it's an investment backed by real estate, so they feel really comfortable with that. So that's what I would first ask myself. What do I want it to look like? How active do I want to be in it? And also, how is this going to affect what I have kind of the vision for the rest of my life, or how I'm spending the rest of my time? Because the more active you are, the more it tends to kind of bleed into different parts of your life.
Evicting a tenant can be painful and cost as much as $10,000 in court and legal fees. The best way to protect yourself from evictions and bad tenants is to screen your tenants. And the best way that I know to screen your tenants is SmartMove. SmartMove is part of TransUnion, a trusted consumer reporting agency with more than 4 decades of experience. They built an online screening service for independent landlords that delivers critical credit and background reports to you in minutes. It is a valuable tool to help you when you are trying to decide who to put into your rental property. And they can help you find your next great tenant. Only SmartMove has a credit score built specifically for rental screening called Resident Score, which can identify eviction risk 15% better than a traditional score. With the SmartMove report, you'll also get a criminal background check, eviction history report, as well as a full credit report. And only SmartMove has Income Insights, a report enabling you to analyze renter income to determine if further verification is needed. See why 9 out of 10 users recommend SmartMove, and more than 4 million landlords have used SmartMove to make better leasing decisions. SmartMove has a special offer just for Old Dog listeners. Go to tenantscreening.com, enter code OLDDOG25, and you'll get 25% off your next screening. That's tenantscreening.com. Use code OLDDOG25 at checkout for 25% off your next screening. SmartMove. Reduce your risk of non-payment and evictions. Well, your business seems like you're off to an amazing start. You're still a young guy here, and you've got a long ways to go. What's sort of your end game? Where do you want to see this all go in the next 10, 20 years down the road?
I've always, and I actually learned this from a mentor of mine for a long time ago, and she said that she would stop when she felt like she'd reached her full potential. I thought it was a great way to put it. So I don't have a number on it. I'd love to be able to create, a number like $50,000 a month in cash flow, and I'm quite a ways from it. But if I could do something like that, I think it would not only accomplish my goal of being financially free, being able to give my life, my family, the life that I feel they deserve, and then it would also give me a lot of money where I could give back to other things that and help out some other people. And so that would be what I feel is a pretty good spot to get to, and hopefully, if I keep working hard, I can get there and then kind of see where to go from there.
That's great. That's great. Well, our time is kind of zipped by pretty fast here. We, at our portion, we call the Wrap It Up session, where I basically ask you a series of quick questions to get information on resources that might be of value to our listeners. And if you are ready, I can go ahead and start to wrap it up.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Favorite real estate book?
I'll give you 2. I'm going to put in Rich Dad, Poor Dad because that was my first one. But another one that I really like is Build a Rental Property Empire. It's called the No Nonsense book on finding deals, financing the right way, and managing wisely. It's by a guy named Mark Ferguson. It's more recent, and I think he really has a good grounded approach in how he goes after his business. And I think there's a lot of key takeaways that people can learn from it if they want to, build up a rental portfolio. Great
suggestion. Mark's a frequent guest here on the Old Dogs REI.
Awesome.
It's a good guy, real good guy. How about favorite business book?
My new one is Deep Work. It's by a guy named Cal Newport. It really focuses on how can whatever time that you have, can you really get involved in that project, really focus on what you're working on. Especially a lot of people feel like they don't have enough hours in the day. So if you only got 2 hours to work on real estate, how can you set yourself up so you're really focused and really get the most return on your investment for the time that you're working on a certain project? I really like the few books that he's written. That's Cal Newport.
Good recommendation. How about most valuable website for success other than your own, of course?
Of course. I think Bigger Pockets, there's some really great information on there, especially some of the people who are consistent bloggers on there, they've got a lot of experience. They'll put out a lot of good information. I think sometimes you have to pick and choose who you get advice from, but there's a lot of people with a lot of experience who do put out a lot of good information, and you don't have to get the paid account. You get on for free, and a lot you can learn from there.
That's great. How about favorite app?
I use Dropbox about 500 times a day. I really like it.
Rockbox. I've never heard of it.
Dropbox.
Dropbox. Oh,
Dropbox.
They said Rockbox. I thought
No.
it was a rock and roll, little application you put on there. No. Okay. Dropbox. Yes, that is a great app.
I love it. Backs up all of our stuff, and I can make share a folder with other people. So that's probably my favorite one I use the most.
Yeah, we do a lot of docs, don't we, in real estate? So that's excellent. How about favorite quote?
Start from wherever you are and with whatever you've got. That's a Jim Rome quote. Everybody's got a spot that they're at, and everybody's got different resources. But wherever you're at, whatever you got, start, and you can find a way. You can get it done.
Love it. And our final wrap-it-up question: if something happened and you lost absolutely everything you had, all your assets, and all you had was $1,000 in cash in hand, knowing what you know today, what would you do with that $1,000 to rebuild your real estate investing business?
I'd buy some business cards, because you've got to be able to make connections with people. I would buy some stamps and some paper, and then I would fill up the truck with gas and get out and not only learn my area, learn the people who are most active in the area that I want to invest, being San Antonio, make those connections and see how you can add value to each person that you meet. If it's an investor or if it's a home seller, if you can add value to them, it's going to add value back into your business, and just build from there.
Great advice. Wow. Well, this has been a great show. I really appreciate it, Nick. And, I think that the folks listening are just, there's a lot of stuff they can take with them on this one. So good stuff. I'm sure there's folks, though, that are listening that might want to, find out more about you and what you do. What's the best way for folks to do that?
All my information's on the website, sellmysanantoniohouse.com. And if you want to see what my website looks like, of course, you can go on there. If you want to email me, nick@sellmysanantoniohouse.com, or, give me a call, 210-201-6644. If I can help you, I'll give it a shot.
That's great, Nick. Well, thank you so much. This has been just a kick, and just a flood of great information. We have this tradition, though, at the end of each show, we have our guests close us out with their best old hound dog howl. Okay. Now, I know San Antonio's got some hound dogs out there, so you should be able to do this without any problem.
Well, thank you for having me. And if you're ready, I'll give it a shot.
Yes, sir. Go for it. Wow, that was a good one, a long one. Man, Nick, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
You bet. I also want to thank all our old dog listeners out there, too, for joining us today. I know there's a lot of other things you could be doing right now, but the fact that you've taken the time to join us means a lot, and we really appreciate it. Please note, everything presented here today can be accessed in our very detailed show notes on the Old Dogs website at olddogsreinetwork.com/blog. And we're going to have some PDF documents here that actually Nick developed that are excellent to help you in your planning, and shows you kind of his thought processes in starting with that why and coming down to sort of your day-to-day activities to support that why, which I think is just a great thing. So that'll also be in the show notes too. So look for the episode with Nick Disney. Well, that's the show for today. Remember, cash flow is king and real estate investing the means. Until next time, keep moving forward, and may God bless.
Thank you very much for visiting the Old Dogs REI Network. We would greatly appreciate if you would stop by iTunes and let us know what you think of the show. We would love if you could subscribe to the podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and write a review. The more ratings and reviews we receive, the more visible the podcast will be to others. Thank you.